Hello, welcome back. My name is Lorna. Today we're going to talk about the inner child. What even is it? Emotions, where they're felt in the body. If you're interested, please hit subscribe, like and share this video with anyone you think might be interested. Let's get into it. So we're going to start with talking about ego states. Have you heard of ego states? So this is not Freud and his ego id and all of that jazz. This is something else. It's called ego states, and it helps us understand where our feelings live. Okay, and this is how I'd work with clients. So you know how in a moment you can be feeling completely fine, I'm doing my thing. Then you could feel like falling to the floor, crying, screaming, feeling terrified, or even being really judgy with yourself, saying, you should do this, you're not good enough. Well, it's as if we're three different people: a parent, an adult, and a child. We all have this. I have this, you have this, they have this. Let me draw it for you. So we've got ego states. I'll put a link below for a little bit more information. So it's like we are, look at my picture here, all perfect circles. Don't do perfect, right? So they're all the same size. So it's as if we are a parent, adult, and child. Okay, boom. Guess where the inner child is? We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so parent ego state. This comes from, and it's not making anyone bad, but let's just raise awareness around this. It comes from our parents, our grandparents. We may find ourselves, you might find yourself saying something that, oh, that's what my dad said, or that's what my mum said. So these parent ego state messages, they're coming from the past. They're not authentically in the here and now. They also come from, so it's our parents, grandparents, carers, society, religion, bigger, the media, you know, how women should be, how boys should be. All of these messages in society. Right, so the parent ego state, it has two different sides to it. The first side is the critical parent, or the pig parent. Yeah, so there is a positive to this, which is safety. So with a child, you would get a child and say, get away from the road. So that firmness is there for safety. However, too much of it is toxic, right? Raining down on the child, on us, if this has happened to you. Okay, so this is where our shoulds come from. When you notice you have a message saying the should, it's not real. It's coming from the past. It is coming from the past. So, you know, and those negative thoughts we get, the intrusive thoughts. So the shoulds, the you're not good enough. So that's the critical ego state there in the parent. The other side is the nurturing parent. Okay, nurturing parent. Well, the nurturing parent has a negative side. So, which is the smother mother or the helicopter parent. I'm sure you know a few of them. You know, the helicopter parent who knows all about their child's life, even when they're like 19. Child never learns to get up for themselves and know, okay, this will pass, I'm going to be all right. The nurturing parent. Right, so the positive side of the nurturing parent, and it's really important for mental health, is that this is where we learn how to go, okay, as a child it may, or looking after children, it may be, right, we're going to go out and play football or go swimming, then come home, watch a video and have some ice cream, do some playing. So like nurturing stuff, right? Go and be outside, go and do art, listen to music, play video games, like the cool stuff. If we haven't had a parent who's given us that, it's difficult for us to self-care in the here and now as adults. This is where it's hard work. Okay, right, next, the adult ego state. Adult ego state is actually quite boring, but it is in the here and now. Noticing my feet on the floor, I've got to pay my bills, I've got to pay the mortgage, I've got to get to work, I've got to get some food in, I have to buy toilet roll. Very much in the here and now. When we are not feeling well, the adult leaves the building. So that filter, often filtering a lot of these toxic messages, has left the building. So now let's get to the child ego state. The child ego state comprises of two main areas, right? I'm just wondering when I'm talking, which of these your makeup has been and what you might be thinking of. Right, so the adaptive child is perfect Peter, the pleaser, the person who always pleases people. So as a child, the child learned what they needed to do to please the parent, to get a hot meal and have somewhere to sleep. These people often do not get their own needs met, don't even know what their own needs are, and they might be in jobs for really, really long times, probably managing toxic bosses. So there's the adaptive child, the pleaser, just notice which you are, versus the free child. So the free child is great, we're going to go out and play, we're going to have fun, we're going to go dancing, but too much of that free child is the rebellious child. Kicking off. It's the fuck it button. So this is where too much in the child ego state, as adults, we will, I don't know, drink a bottle of gin and then get on the motorbike and drive in the wrong direction. You know, it really is, this is where addiction is, food, sex, porn, all this stuff, addiction to work, just too much on the rebellious child here. So just notice which you're feeling when I'm talking about this, but our feelings live in our child ego state. Feelings boil down to 4, okay? So when people say, oh, I feel fat, that is not a feeling, right? The 4 feelings that we have are happy, sad, anger, and fear. There is room for all of these. We cannot just be happy all the time. Everything is light and shade. Sad. A lot of these feelings are also, in fact, all of them are somatic. When I say that, I mean you feel them in your body. The child ego state, there's a lot of non-verbal stuff there. So it's what we feel in our bodies that we know that's making us sad. Fear is an interesting one. So for fear, the feeling of fear is associated with anxiety. Anxiety is fear of something going to happen in the future that hasn't happened yet. Keeps us scared, keeps us stuck. And then we have anger. There's often not a lot of space for anger, but anger and depression are linked. So if we're not allowed to express our anger, if we're not allowed to say that somebody's pissed me off, or that this has happened, or that this wasn't okay, which happens all the time, when we don't have a space to express that anger, it gets trapped in the body, it gets heavy, and then there's depression. Trapped in the body is depression, fears associated with anxiety. Happy's great, but we can't be happy all the time. I would question if anyone was, because what are they hiding? There might be stories in families. So for example, a little boy might not allowed to be sad, but he is allowed to be angry. So when he's sad, he might go and kick off or go and punch somebody. A little girl isn't allowed to be sad. She's got to be happy all the time and pleasing all the time. So to recap, when we're looking at inner child, we're focusing on the ego states. The ego states are parent, adult, and child. The inner child work is in that child ego state. So in therapy, no matter if I'm working with a 75-year-old, we're still working with the child ego state. To get curious about those somatic felt feelings that are associated with when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're scared. They are just as valid, and they're great early warning signs for us to notice. Oh, what is that sensation in my stomach? Am I getting a headache? Do I feel sick? Maybe my fingers and toes are cold, my mouth's dry. Really noticing that mind-body connection and what we may be able to look at to change the outcome. So I hope that was useful. Please like, subscribe and share.